A very good morning and a warm welcome to YouTube channel of Smt.R.S.Kalaria Primary School. Myself, Miss Zeenat Dhanani. Today we are going to study English text, unit number 1, Exploring Symbols. All of you must have heard about symbol. What is a symbol? What do you mean by a symbol? So, a symbol is a word, image or object that represents something else. A symbol can be a word, it can be an image, or it can be an object which represents something else. It stands for something else. One example is there. Sun lion represented Tagore. For Tagore, the symbol was sun lion because it was according to his pen name. Now we are going to study about pen name. I'll be telling you about that a little later. So in this lesson we are going to study about the different symbols. We are going to explore, discover, find out about the different symbols which are used. In activity 1, we are going to talk about Rabindranath Tagore, who was born in Calcutta in 1861. He is the poet who wrote India's national anthem. Okay, Jana Gana Mana, which we sing. He is the poet. It was Rabindranath Tagore who has written India's national anthem. And for your knowledge, he has also written Bangladesh's national anthem, Amar Sonar Bangla. And he won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1913. Tagore started to write poetry when he was only 8 years old, and he published his first poem when he was only 16. So you can imagine, from a very early age, the instinct or the craze for writing poetry had taken place in his heart. So when he was 8 years old, he started writing poetry, and when he reached the age of 16, his first poem was also published. For this, Tagore did not use his real name. He used a pen name, Dhanu, which means sun lion. Now I'll tell you about pen name. Children, don't get confused with nickname, pet name and pen name. Nickname and pet name is same. It's a name which, not your original name, but a name which your parents call you lovingly or your friends call you lovingly. But a pen name is something different. What is a pen name? It is an assumed name used by a writer instead of their real name. Writers use pen names to disguise. Disguise means to hide, to disguise their true identity. When writers do not want to write their real name, they want to hide, they want to disguise their real identity, then they use a pen name. Now Tagore was only 16 years old when he started writing poetry. So the readers at that time were thinking, or they might think, that such a small age, then his poems must not be good. So no one will read his poems. That is why he chose a pen name. A pen name is an assumed name. So at the end of the poem, you will not see Rabindranath Tagore written, but you will see Bhanu Singha, his pen name. Actually, the poem is written by Rabindranath Tagore, but because he does not want to reveal his true identity, he will write Bhanu Singha. But that was only for a short period. Then Rabindranath Tagore started writing his real name. So you also have to choose a pen name for yourself. Now we are going to talk about a very important poem of Rabindranath Tagore. Where the mind is without fear. Where the mind is without fear. This is a poem which is written by Rabindranath Tagore and a very famous poem of him. Okay? So I'll be explaining you line by line. We'll take 2 lines at one time. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high. Over here, Rabindranath, see, I'll tell you, in short, in brief, if I tell you, this poem is written by Tagore as a prayer to the Almighty to free people. This poem has been written before independence and he wants to free India from the Britishers. So this poem is written in the form of a prayer to Almighty. Where the mind is, so Tagore reveals his own concept of freedom throughout the poem. And when this poem was written, India was under the British rule and people were eagerly waiting to get their freedom. So this poem is written in the form of a prayer to God. So where the mind is without fear and the head is held high. So in the very first line, the poem prays to the Almighty. The poet is praying to the Almighty that his countrymen should be free from any fear of oppression or forced compulsion. His people, the Indians, should be free from any compulsion. There should be no compulsion. He wishes that everyone in his country should have his head held high. To have your head held high means to live in respect and dignity. In other words, according to him, in a truly free country, every person should be free and should have a sense of self-dignity. When you live a life of respect and dignity, your head is held high. If you are living in fear, your head cannot be held high. Then the next line says, where knowledge is free. Where knowledge is free means, over here we are not talking about money from where you can buy knowledge. Where knowledge is free means that the poet dreams of a nation where knowledge or education should not be restricted to the upper class only. Previously, before the British rule, it was the tradition that only the upper class, people of upper class, higher class will get knowledge and education. So, Rabindranath Tagore is saying that education should not be limited or restricted to the upper class. Everyone should have a right to it. Okay? Not only that, the children should learn freely from nature and the world around them. They should not be forced to memorize some predetermined lessons. This is Tagore's typical concept of education. Everyone should have, whether he is a lower class man, upper class man, middle class man, everybody should have the right to knowledge and education. Then in the next line we have, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls. A very important line of the poem where we see that comparison is being made. Where the world has not been broken up into fragments. Fragments means pieces. By narrow domestic walls. Over here, walls does not mean the walls of our house. Okay, walls means the superstitions. The poet emphasizes on the unity of not only his countrymen but the entire world. If we are united, no one can break us. He thinks there should be no division among people based on their caste, color, religion or any other baseless superstitions. In other words, prejudices and superstitions should not divide the people in groups and break their unity. If we are united, we will be able to achieve something. But if we are broken up into fragments, pieces by narrow domestic walls means superstitions and divisions, then we will not be able to achieve our freedom. Next lines, when words come out from the depth of truth, it means that Tagore wants a nation where people are truthful and they should not be superficial and words should come out from their heart. Remember children, if something from your heart, you will always speak the truth. If you speak something from the depth of your heart, from inside, you will always speak the truth. So Tagore wants a nation where everything is true and people speak the truth. Next, where tireless striving stretches its arm towards perfection. In the 6th line of this poem, the poet wants everyone to work hard, to work tirelessly without pausing, hard work to reach their goal, and in the long run to reach perfection. If you do your work perfectly, if you work hard, you definitely reach your goal. He thinks that they should not be tired by working. People should not be lazy and ignore their work. They should continuously work tirelessly so that their goal is achieved. Next lines, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habits. That means where the clear stream of reason, over here you are comparing, stream, reason has been compared, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habits. That means the poet is comparing reason or logical thinking to a clear stream. Reason has been compared to a clear stream, and in the next line he compares dead habits. Dead habits means what? Are superstitions. Dead habits are superstitious beliefs to a dreary desert where nothing is there. So our superstitions are like dreary desert where you don't find anything. He wants the stream of reason not to lose its way into the dreary of prejudices. In short, people's thought should be monitored by rational thinking, not by superstitions, and logic should rule over baseless beliefs. You should think that when you are believing something, why are you believing? What is the reason behind your belief? You should think logically and rationally. Rabindranath Tagore compares dead habits to dreary desert in which the stream of reason has lost its way. Okay, as I told you, dreary desert stands for superstitious which do not let us apply logic. Okay, if you are believing in superstition, you will not be able to use your logic. Where the mind, next line, where the mind is led forward by thee means you, God, into ever widening thought and action. So in these two lines, the poet wishes his countrymen to be broad-minded and progressive. You don't have to think narrow, your mind should be broad, think broadly. He wants that the minds are led forward to ever widening thought and action by the Almighty. In short, we should be open-minded and do something unusual or extraordinary, overcoming the narrowness of mind. If your thinking is narrow, you will never be able to do anything. You have to be open-minded. Then only new thoughts and ideas will come to your mind. And the last line, into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake. In the final line of the poet addresses God as Father. What is he saying? My Father, let my country awake. Over here, poet is referring to God as Father, and he is asking him to awaken his country into such a heaven of freedom where the above conditions meet. So the poet says to the Almighty to raise or lift his country to such heights where freedom would be realized at its best. Okay, so he is actually praying to God to awaken his countrymen so that they come out from the darkness of ignorance and all other evils. So over here you can see that this poem Rabindranath Tagore has written his own name. Pen name is not used. So in short, if you say that the main idea or the message of the poet is that this country should be free from all these superstitions and to Tagore is praying to God to give his countrymen certain virtues like fearlessness, knowledge, broad-mindedness, logical thinking, so that his nation can achieve freedom to the fullest. And the poet wants his people to be wise enough to lead a happy and peaceful life where they can enjoy their freedom well, and they should not believe in superstitions and should be proud of their country and proud to be an Indian. Okay, is this clear? The poem by Rabindranath Tagore, Where the Mind is Without Fear. After the poem, we have meanings, words and meanings where you have to match. Like I told you, fragments means pieces, striving means to labor hard or to work hard, dreary means cheerless, domestic, related to family affairs, tireless, without rest or sleep, and desert, waterless or isolated area or land. Okay, so this is an exercise in your textbook where you have to match the words and meanings. Then you have that which lines or which words help you to understand whom the poet is talking to. The poet is talking to someone in the poem. So who is the poet talking to? The poet is talking to God. Then we have adjectives. Okay, before adjectives you have to say in this line, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit. What is lost in this poem? What is lost in the dreary desert? So you can say that the power to think or the power to reason and think logically is lost in this line of the poem. Okay, now we have an activity where you have to find out the adjectives. Adjectives have to be found out from the poem. So, adjectives found in the poem are high, free, narrow, domestic, tireless, clear, dreary, ever-widening, bright, and mild. So, total we have 10 adjectives. Till ever-widening, they are qualitative adjectives, and that demonstrative adjective, and mild, possessive adjective. Okay, so they are in all, we have 10 adjectives in this poem. Then we move on to the next activity where Tagore is comparing. He is comparing the stream as a symbol for reason. As I explained to you in the poem, he has compared reason to stream. Stream is a symbol of reason. What is another line where we see that Tagore uses symbol in this way? There is one more line in the poem where he has used, he has compared, he has used symbol. So the line is where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls. So narrow domestic walls means the prejudices and the baseless superstitions which divide people based on their color, caste, religion, etc. Next we have the different symbols of India. There are many symbols of India. You can see I have written a few of them on the board. National flag, Tiranga, national bird, peacock, national animal. To be very specific, you have to say Royal Bengal tiger. Okay, the tiger is correct, not an issue. But if you write Royal Bengal tiger, it's more appropriate. Then you have national song, Vande Mataram, national game, hockey, national anthem, Janaganamana, national calendar, Saka calendar. Then you have national vegetable, pumpkin. Okay, our national vegetable is pumpkin. National reptile, king cobra. National currency, Indian rupee. Not only rupee, but you have to be specific and you have to say Indian rupee. All these symbols have different meanings. There are different meanings for all these symbols. Okay, I will tell you. Tiranga means freedom and unity. Peacock, grace and beauty. Royal Bengal tiger Hockey, popularity and swiftness. Jana Gana Mana, unity in diversity. Indian rupee, prosperity. King cobra, speed and danger. Pumpkin, fertility. And Saka calendar, history of India. Like our national flag, the green color in our national flag, it stands for fertility, the fertile land which India possesses. So the same way, these symbols also have different meanings, which I told you. Then there is an activity where you have to say that why you think that a particular symbol is your favorite symbol. For example, we have taken Tiranga. My group decided that Tiranga is our favorite because it symbolizes freedom and unity of the Indians. Then we have my own favorite symbol is, we have chosen National Bird of India, peacock. Why? Because it is a beautiful and graceful bird which dances in the rain. To me, this symbol means beauty and grace because peacocks are a sign of joy for all who see them. It is a very beautiful bird, especially now in this rainy season. You find peacocks dancing also sometimes. If you are lucky enough, you will see them dancing in the rain. Okay. In our next activity, we are going to talk about animals which are used as symbols. You know that when people see cats, black cats, especially black cats, they think that black cats symbolize bad luck. But again, this is a superstition. It is merely a superstition. They symbolize black cats with bad luck. But actually nothing of that sort happens. Lion has a symbol of royalty. Because lion is the king of the jungle, so it's a symbol of royalty. So we are going to read a story now. I'm going to tell you a story where two animals have been used as symbols. The fox and the rabbit. There was once a very clever fox who loved to brag. Brag means to boast about his cleverness. One day he said to the rabbit, "I'm so clever that I know 100 ways to escape enemies." The fox is continuously boasting about himself to the rabbit that I am a very intelligent animal and I am very clever and I know 100 ways to escape from enemies. Wow, the rabbit said, I have only one, but it works well. Rabbit is saying, I don't have 100 ways, but I have only one way and it works very well. The fox said, you should listen to me. I will teach you many more. You should know many ways to escape like I do. So the fox is telling to the rabbit that I am going to teach you many other ways because you only know one way. Just at that moment, the fox and the rabbit heard the cry of a pack of hunters coming towards them. Just at that moment when they were discussing, they heard the noise of the hunters coming towards them. Immediately the rabbit leaped. Leap means to move quickly and suddenly down his hole and he was gone. He called back to the fox, this is my plan. What are you going to do? So when they heard the hunters coming, immediately with one plan, the rabbit went down his hole and from the hole he is telling to the fox, now what will you do? What is your plan? The fox thought first of one way, then another, then he thought of a better way, then he considered another way, and while he was thinking of the different choices, the hunters caught him up and he was soon carried off. Because he had 100 plans, he could not choose one. So finally he was caught and he was carried away by the hunters. Okay, so after listening to the story, you must have understood that the fox symbolizes foolishness because it is like people who boast about themselves in real life. These people are continuously boasting, self-praising. Okay, they are continuously praising about themselves in real life. So fox symbolizes foolishness. He had 100 ways, but when the turn came to use his way, he could not even utilize one of his ways. Rabbit stands for wisdom and cleverness because it is like intelligent people what do you mean by the word literal? The literal meaning of a word is its exact factual meaning. Exact meaning is said to be literal meaning. We know that the fox and the rabbit are symbols because they do not represent real foxes. Over here, fox and rabbit, in the story they have been used as symbols. We are not talking about the real fox and the real rabbit. When something is not symbolic, when it only represents exactly what it is in real life and nothing else, we say that it has a literal meaning. Literal means exact. Okay, exact factual meanings. One example is there in your textbook. If your friend says, I am dead tired, it does not mean that your friend has died. Dead tired means very tired. You know that your friend is not literally dead because he is alive and talking to you. So, he is not using the word, literal meaning of the word dead. The literal meaning of the word dead is to die. But when your friend says, I am dead tired, it means that he is very tired and he is not using the literal meaning of the word dead. In the same way, we know that in the fox and the rabbit story, the fox and the rabbit story is not literally about foxes and rabbits, because real foxes and rabbits cannot talk. They have only been used as a symbol. Now we are going to read one more story and the last activity of our lesson about Emperor Akbar and Birbal. One night Emperor Akbar dreamt that he had lost all his teeth except one. So what dream did Emperor Akbar have? That he had lost all his teeth except one. Only one tooth was remaining. The next morning he invited all the astrologers. Who are astrologers? People who predict the future, who tell you about the future of his kingdom to interpret, explain the dream. After a long discussion, the astrologers prophesied means predicted, that all his relatives would die before him. So what did the astrologers say? The astrologers explained that all his relatives will die before him. That means the relatives have been compared to all the teeth that had fallen, and one tooth which was remaining was Emperor Akbar himself. He will die after all his relatives. Emperor Akbar was very upset by this explanation and sent away all the astrologers without any reward. He was not happy. So he did not give the astrologers any reward. And we all know that the last option with Emperor Akbar is always Birbal. Later that day, Birbal entered the darbar. Emperor Akbar related his dream and asked him to interpret it. After thinking for a while, Birbal replied that the emperor would live a longer and more fulfilled life than any of his relatives. Birbal also said the same thing, but he said in a different way. What did Birbal say? Birbal said that emperor will live a longer life and a more satisfied or fulfilled life as compared to his relatives. That means his relatives will not live as long as Emperor Akbar. The same thing which the astrologers said, but the astrologers had talked about death and he talked about emperor's long life. Emperor Akbar was very pleased with Birbal's explanation and rewarded him handsomely, lot of money or whatever. Okay, so many people believe that dreams have symbolic meaning. For example, many people think of the different problems. I'll explain you. For some people, a problem is a huge mountain, a symbol as a huge mountain that needs to be overcome. For some people, a problem, a dream. Okay, another person might dream of a problem as a locked door that only needs a key. For some people, it will be like a mountain. A problem will be very big, like a mountain. But for some people, it will be like a locked door, a door which is locked. If you get the key, you can open it. And for some people, the problem will be like a high wall, a very high wall. So it depends on person to person how we interpret, how we understand. Similarly, like the story, Birbal said the same thing, but his way of speaking was different. by a dash. We saw high wall, we saw locked door, we saw mountain, huge rock, a whirlpool. You know what's a whirlpool? A natural calamity. Not a dark tunnel. Okay, a dark tunnel. A solution to a serious problem. When you get the solution to a problem, it might be symbolized by a dash or a dash. So a solution to a serious problem might be symbolized by a beautiful garden or a calm river. If you have seen a calm river, you feel very happy. So when you get a solution to any problem, you feel happy and satisfied. So you can symbolize with a beautiful river, a calm river, or a beautiful garden. Growing up might be symbolized by a lizard's broken tail. If you know, a lizard can regrow its broken tail. So growing up can be symbolized by a lizard's broken tail because it grows up very quickly, or a dash because it grows up very slowly. A seed in the ground takes time, it grows up slowly. Or a nail, your fingernails, toenails. So as compared to your fingernails, your toenails grow slowly. And learning might be represented by a lighted bulb because it brings a person from darkness to the light of knowledge. When the bulb is lighted, it will bring you from darkness to the light of knowledge. So over here we finish with our Unit 1 exploring symbols. I hope students you have enjoyed. See you soon.